There comes a moment in life when your heart cries louder than your voice ever could. You sit in the silence of your own soul, holding on to someone who was never really holding you back. And it hurts. Not the kind of pain you can see, but the kind that breaks you from the inside out. You gave your time, your love, your loyalty. You stayed when you should have walked. You fought when they stopped caring. You kept showing up while they kept disappearing. And now you're left with the question, how do I let go of someone who hurt me? Someone I loved. Let me tell you something real. Just because someone meant the world to you doesn't mean they belonged in your world forever. The hardest part isn't moving on. It's choosing to stop bleeding for someone who wouldn't even hand you a bandage. You cannot heal in the same place that broke you. And you cannot keep pouring into a soul that was sent to drain your. This ain't just about heartbreak. This is about healing. This is about standing in the ruins of what you thought was love and deciding you still deserve peace. It's about looking in the mirror and saying, I matter too. Because the most powerful act of love you can give sometimes is letting go. So if you're hurting, if you're holding on to the memory of someone who only gave you pain, I need you to listen close. Because this is your breakthrough moment. It's a kind of pain that doesn't show up in x-rays. It doesn't bleed. It doesn't bruise. But it lives in your chest like a fire you can't put out. And the worst part, you carry it quietly, behind smiles and crowds, pretending like everything's all right. But deep down you know, it's not. You loved someone who hurt you. Someone who looked into your eyes and still chose to wound you. And now you're stuck with the ache they left behind. But listen. There is no shame in that pain. There's no weakness in your hurt. Don't let the world convince you that you should be over it by now. Pain doesn't move on just because the world keeps spinning. You're not dramatic. You're not broken. You're just healing. That heartbreak is not something to hide. It's something to face. Because healing doesn't happen when you deny the wound. Healing happens when you look it straight in the eye and say, yes, I'm hurting. Yes, it broke me, but I refuse to stay broken. And that moment when you choose to face your pain without shame, that's when the healing begins. People like to tell you, just let it go, like it's that easy. Like you didn't build memories with that person. Like your soul didn't trust them. Like you didn't see your future standing beside them. You didn't just lose a person, you lost a part of yourself. And the truth is, you can't heal what you won't admit is hurting. You can't overcome what you keep trying to pretend doesn't exist. That pain is there for a reason. It's showing you where the damage was done. So instead of hiding from it, let it speak, let it scream, let it pour out of you. Cry if you need to. Break down if that's what it takes. Because there's strength in surrender. There's power in honesty. You don't have to be the strong one every second of the day. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is admit, I'm not okay right now. And that's okay. Healing begins when you tell the truth to yourself first. You see, pain has a way of making us question our worth. When someone hurts us deeply, we start to wonder, was it me? Did I do something wrong? Was I not enough? And those questions, they linger like ghosts in your mind. But hear this. Your pain does not mean you were unworthy. Someone else's inability to value your heart does not define its worth. You can't keep blaming yourself for someone else's inability to love you the way you deserve. That pain you feel, it's not a reflection of your weakness. It's a reflection of how deeply you cared. And that's something to be proud of. Because in a world full of people who guard their hearts, who run from love, you had the courage to give yours away. That's not shameful. That's brave. And now in this moment, as you stand with a broken heart, I need you to do the bravest thing of all. Forgive yourself for the pain you didn't deserve. And begin to love the one person you've been ignoring. You. There are nights when the silence is so loud it almost crushes you. The memories come like waves crashing into your heart with no warning. A song, a scent, a place. It all pulls you back to what used to be. And that's when the shame tries to creep in. That's when your mind says you should be past this. Why are you still hurting? But grief doesn't work on a schedule. Letting go isn't a straight line. Some days you'll feel fine, others you'll feel shattered. That's the truth no one tells you. And in those moments when the pain hits hard, don't hide from it. Don't drown it in distractions. Let it speak. Let it teach you, because pain, as cruel as it is, has a purpose. It's the body's way of saying something needs attention. And your heart, it needs attention. Not judgment, not shame, just compassion. Just time, just honesty. You don't owe anyone a fast recovery. You only owe yourself the space to heal at your own pace. Maybe no one saw the way they hurt you. Maybe they smiled in public and stabbed you in private. Maybe everyone thinks they're the victim and you're the villain. And maybe you've been carrying that injustice like a weight on your soul. But hear me, just because others don't see your pain doesn't mean it isn't valid. Just because they walk around pretending like nothing happened doesn't mean you have to. You don't need their permission to hurt. You don't need their apology to heal. You are allowed to feel everything. The anger, the confusion, the heartbreak. You're allowed to be disappointed in how they treated you. Stop shrinking your pain just to keep the peace. Stop editing your emotions because others can't handle your truth. You owe it to yourself to be real, even when it's uncomfortable. Even when it feels like no one understands, because this journey, it's not about them. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional prison they left you in. Sometimes we fear facing our pain because we think if we start crying, we might never stop. We think if we fall apart, no one will be there to help us put the pieces back together. But I'm here to tell you, you are stronger than your breakdown. You are bigger than your grief. That pain you're feeling right now, it will not last forever, but it will demand your attention until you honor it. It's not weakness to feel. It's weakness to suppress what's real. Let it rise. Let it come through. Don't numb it. Don't fake a smile. Don't pretend like it didn't hurt. Pretending doesn't heal. Processing does. Feeling does. And every time you let that pain speak and you meet it with compassion, not shame, you take a step closer to peace. You don't heal by avoiding the storm. You heal by walking through it, knowing that on the other side, there's light. The pain you carry didn't start with you. For some, it's rooted in childhood wounds, generational trauma, and years of being taught to silence your emotions. Somewhere along the way, you learned that being strong meant never showing pain. But that's a lie. True strength isn't about holding everything inside. It's about having the courage to let it out. It's about saying, this hurt me, even when it feels uncomfortable. It's about giving your heart the attention it never got. You don't have to live your life pretending. You don't have to suffer in silence. Give yourself the permission to feel deeply, because your heart was not designed to be hard. It was designed to love, to break, and to rebuild. Every tear you've cried is a seed of healing, watering the soil of your next chapter. Don't be ashamed of your emotion. Be proud that you've survived everything you were never meant to carry alone. It's easy to look back and judge yourself for what you allowed, to replay moments and say, how could I let them treat me that way? Why didn't I walk away sooner? But hindsight is always 20/20. You made decisions based on love, not foolishness, based on hope, not weakness. And now you see the truth. But that doesn't mean you were wrong to love. It means you were brave enough to try. Shame tells you it was your fault. Shame tells you you're stupid for staying. But healing tells you you did your best with what you knew at the time. And now you know better. Now you see clearer. And that wisdom came through pain. You don't have to carry regret. You don't have to beat yourself up. Let the past be your teacher, not your prison. Acknowledge the pain, but don't stay there. Let it build you. Let it raise you up. Let it whisper, you deserved better. And now you're learning to give that to yourself. Every time you deny your pain, you deny a piece of your story. And your story matters. Every wound, every heartbreak, every sleepless night, it all becomes part of the tapestry of who you are. You don't grow by running. You grow by standing still long enough to say, this happened, it hurt, but I survived. That's the power of acknowledgement. That's how you take the first step toward freedom. Not by blaming, not by seeking revenge, but by standing in your truth, fully, boldly, without apology. You don't need to fix the pain overnight. You just need to stop pretending it's not there. Let your truth be seen. Let your heart be heard, even if it shakes, even if it trembles. Because the moment you stop hiding is the moment you start healing. And that's what this season is for. Not shame, but restoration, wholeness, real love for yourself. So if you're sitting there tonight, tired of pretending, tired of carrying the weight of pain you didn't ask for, know this: you don't have to keep hiding. You don't have to be ashamed of your heart, even if it's broken. That pain you feel, it's not a weakness. It's a sign that you dared to love. And even though it hurt you, it didn't defeat you. Acknowledge it, hold it, speak to it with kindness, and watch over time that pain will begin to soften. Not because it didn't matter, but because you finally gave it a voice. And in that voice, in that truth, you'll find your freedom. One honest breath at a time. Sometimes the hardest part of healing isn't the pain, it's the silence. It's waking up every day hoping for a message that never comes, a conversation that never happens, an apology you keep waiting for that stays locked in someone else's lips. You sit there replaying everything, trying to figure out what you did wrong, trying to make sense of how something so deep ended so cold. But let me tell you something. It is one of the cruelest forms of emotional imprisonment to sit in a cage made of someone else's silence. You deserve freedom. And the first step toward that freedom is accepting that closure is not something you're guaranteed. It's a gift, not a right. Some people leave and never look back, not because you weren't worth it, but because they never had the courage to face what they broke. And you can't keep putting your healing in their hands. It's time to stop waiting for them to give you peace. It's time to create your own peace. Because the longer you wait for their words, the longer you hold yourself hostage to a moment that may never come. And you deserve to be free now, not later. They left without answers. They ended everything without explaining. Maybe they ghosted you. Maybe they made you feel like the problem. Maybe they acted like none of it ever mattered. And you're left holding this burning question in your heart. Why? Why did they leave like that? Why didn't they say goodbye? Why didn't they love you enough to close the door with decency? But listen, some people don't give closure because they don't have the capacity to deal with what they've done. They don't want to face their reflection in your eyes. So instead, they vanish. They rewrite history. They avoid accountability, and you sit in the aftermath thinking maybe if you just understood, you could move on. But healing doesn't come from understanding their brokenness. It comes from choosing to love yourself more than their silence. It comes from accepting that their inability to offer closure is not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their character. And the moment you stop searching for their words is the moment you start hearing your own soul again. Let that voice grow louder than your unanswered questions. Closure is a lie we often chase when we want to make sense of chaos. We think if we just knew what went wrong, it would hurt less. But truth be told, even if they gave you every reason in the world, it wouldn't fix the ache. Because it's not about facts, it's about emotions. It's about how deeply you cared. It's about the love you gave that wasn't returned. And no explanation will ever fully soothe the ache of being dismissed, devalued, or abandoned. What you really want isn't closure, it's comfort. You want the pain to stop. You want the story to make sense. But some chapters won't. Some endings won't feel fair. And that's okay. Life doesn't always give us neat conclusions. Sometimes your peace comes from releasing the need to understand and choosing instead to accept what is. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Because waiting for someone else to close the door keeps you stuck in a room you've outgrown. Let yourself walk out, even if they never look back. That's the kind of strength they'll never understand. You've probably rehearsed what you'd say if you saw them again. Maybe you've drafted messages in your mind, trying to craft the perfect words to make them see your pain. That need to be heard. It's human. That longing for validation, it's real. But sometimes the most powerful thing you'll ever do is say nothing. Not because you don't care, but because you decided to protect your peace. Because silence can be sacred. Closure isn't a conversation. Closure is a decision. It's the moment you say, I won't let their silence define my worth. I won't let their absence control my present. You don't need to prove anything to them. You don't need their permission to move forward. Let your healing speak louder than your hurt. Let your growth speak for itself. If they couldn't see your value then, your words now won't open their eyes. But your life, your peace, your strength, your joy, that's your closure. That's your answer. We often think closure will come when they finally say, I'm sorry, when they admit they were wrong. But some people will never say those words, not because you didn't deserve them, but because they're too prideful to admit their fault, too broken to acknowledge your pain. And while you're over there holding on to hope, they've already moved on like nothing ever happened. That's the reality, and it's painful, but it's also freeing. Because once you stop waiting for their apology, you can start writing your own ending. One where you forgive, not for them, but for you. One where you stop looking back and start creating something beautiful out of the wreckage. Your story doesn't end where they left you. It begins where you decide to rise. And that rise, it starts when you choose to stop begging for answers from someone who never even deserved your questions in the first place. Letting go of the idea of closure doesn't mean the pain vanishes overnight. You'll still have days when it hits you like a wave. You'll still wake up sometimes wondering what it all meant. But healing isn't about erasing the past. It's about embracing the truth that you don't need anyone else to validate your experience. You lived it. You felt it. And that's enough. You don't need a final conversation to declare the end. You can choose today to say, this ends here, not because they said so, but because I said so. That's power. That's healing. That's real closure. And when that moment comes, when you finally stop checking your phone, stop waiting for the message, stop rehearsing what you'd say if they ever reached out, that's when you realize you were the closure all along. You just had to believe it. You gave them a piece of your heart, maybe even your whole heart, and they walked away without a goodbye. That kind of wound, it shakes your faith in people. It makes you question love. It makes you build walls. But don't let one person's cowardice destroy the beauty of your spirit. You are still capable of love. You are still worthy of respect. Just because they exited without dignity doesn't mean you have to abandon yours. Hold your head up, even when it hurts, even when you feel like breaking. Let them walk away with the silence they chose. You walk forward with the strength you built. Because at the end of the day, closure isn't about how they left. It's about how you choose to live after they're gone. Choose to live boldly. Choose to heal loudly. Choose to love yourself fiercely. That's how you reclaim your power. You see, what most people don't tell you is that the real closure doesn't come in a moment. It comes in layers. It comes in deep breaths and long walks and quiet realizations. It comes when you hear their name and it no longer breaks you. It comes when you remember what you went through and feel gratitude for the lessons, not bitterness for the loss. It comes when you can look back and say, yes, that hurt me, but it also shaped me. It taught me boundaries. It taught me self-respect. It taught me what I will never accept again. That's the kind of closure no one can give you. That's the kind of strength that doesn't need an audience. You don't need a scene. You don't need a final act. You just need a choice to stop waiting and start healing, to stop hoping for what never was and start embracing what can still be. There's something liberating about not needing anything from the person who hurt you. Not their words, not their explanation, not even their regret. When you reach that place, you realize you've grown, you've matured, you've evolved. They no longer control the narrative of your life. And the silence that once tormented you becomes a space where you finally hear your own voice again. A voice that says, I don't need them to finish my story. I'm finishing it myself. That's the voice of healing. That's the voice of wholeness. That's the voice that says, I am enough without their closure. I am enough without their presence. I am enough because I chose myself. And once you find that voice, you never go back. You stop waiting, you start walking. And every step away from their silence is a step toward your freedom. So if no one ever tells you why, if the apology never comes, if the truth never finds its way back to you, let it be. Let it go. Stop knocking on a door that's already closed. Your closure is not behind them. It's within you. And you don't need to beg for what you can give yourself. You don't need to keep hoping for something that may never come. Stand tall, take a deep breath, and walk into the next chapter with your head high. Not because you got all the answers, but because you finally stopped needing them. And that, my friend, is where true healing begins. Love is not supposed to feel like punishment. It's not supposed to drain the life out of you, leave you second-guessing yourself, wondering if you're too much or not enough. If love makes you anxious, if it makes you afraid to speak, to feel, to be your full self, then that's not love. That's control. That's manipulation. That's emotional imprisonment wrapped in the language of affection. Real love does not hurt your spirit. It doesn't tear you down so it can feel bigger. It doesn't come in waves that knock you over just to pull you back for another crash. Love should feel like shelter, not like a storm. And if you've been taught that love is earned through pain, then I need you to unlearn that lie right now. You are not required to bleed for someone to prove you care. You are not called to suffer just to feel worthy of being held. That's not love. That's emotional slavery. You deserve the kind of love that doesn't confuse you, the kind that doesn't come with conditions or bruises on your soul, the kind that brings peace to your heart, not chaos to your mind. Sometimes we mistake intensity for love. We think if it's passionate, if it's wild, if it consumes us, it must be real. But intensity is an intimacy. Fire can keep you warm, but it can also burn your house to the ground. Love that constantly puts you on edge, love that swings from high to low like a pendulum, that's not romance, that's trauma. And if someone tells you that hurting you is part of loving you, they are manipulating you. Love isn't supposed to test how much pain you can endure. It's supposed to protect you from pain. You should not have to beg for basic decency. You should not have to chase validation or twist yourself into knots to avoid being abandoned. If they only treat you right when they feel like it, that's not love. That's power. If they only show affection after they've wounded you, that's not healing, that's control. Let's stop glorifying struggle love. Let's stop praising relationships that break you in the name of growth. Because the truth is, real love doesn't come with conditions that require you to lose your identity. There's a quiet suffering that lives in people who love the wrong way. A pain that grows in silence, hidden behind smiles and "I'm okay." You start shrinking yourself, dimming your light just to keep the peace. You tell yourself it's just a phase, they're just going through something. You start justifying their disrespect, excusing their neglect. You hold on tighter because you're afraid to be alone. But let me tell you something. Being alone and at peace is better than being in a relationship that keeps breaking your spirit. Love shouldn't feel like a battle you have to fight every day. It shouldn't leave you crying more than it makes you laugh. If someone loves you, they won't leave you emotionally starving. They won't use your heart like a punching bag. They will cherish your vulnerability, not exploit it. And if you have to suffer to keep them, that's not love. That's fear. And you deserve better than living in fear of the one who's supposed to make you feel safe. A lot of people are addicted to pain because that's what love looked like growing up. Maybe you saw your parents yell more than they hugged. Maybe you grew up believing that love meant sacrifice, that loyalty meant staying no matter how bad it got. But let me wake you up to the truth. Love is not supposed to traumatize you. It's supposed to heal you. It's supposed to be the place where your soul exhales, not the place where it suffocates. And I know it's hard to walk away when pain is familiar, but familiar doesn't mean right. Just because you've seen struggle love doesn't mean you have to settle for it. You have the power to break that cycle. You have the power to create a new story, one where love is calm, honest, supportive, one where love feels like coming home, not like surviving a war. You don't have to accept suffering just to feel loved. You're allowed to want ease. You're allowed to want joy. You're allowed to say, this love is costing me too much, and I'm done paying with my peace. People will tell you that no relationship is perfect, and they're right. But don't let that lie convince you to stay in something that's destroying you. Yes, love takes work. But that work should not include rebuilding yourself every time they tear you down. That work should not mean tolerating disrespect, betrayal, or emotional manipulation. Love is not supposed to strip you of your confidence. It's not supposed to have you questioning your worth every single day. And if it does, you're not in love. You're in bondage. The right love doesn't require you to lose your voice. It helps you find it. It doesn't demand perfection. It accepts you, flaws and all, and still chooses kindness. So don't settle for someone who loves you only when it's convenient. Don't give the best parts of yourself to someone who uses your pain as proof of their power. Love should lift you. Love should see you. And love, real love, should never feel like punishment. There's a reason you feel exhausted all the time when you're with the wrong person. Because your soul is working overtime trying to survive what your heart keeps calling love. You're walking on eggshells, editing your truth, swallowing your needs. That's not love, that's emotional labor. And no matter how much you give, it'll never be enough for someone who thrives off your suffering. That's why you feel drained. That's why your smile feels fake. Because deep down, you know that love is supposed to feel different. It's supposed to energize you, inspire you, support your growth, not keep you stuck in a cycle of emotional highs and devastating lows. You're not crazy for wanting peace. You're not selfish for wanting stability. You're not asking for too much by wanting someone who loves you without making you bleed for it. If they only show love when you're breaking, they don't love you. They love control. Let that sink in. The world has romanticized toxic love for far too long. We've been taught that love must be dramatic to be real, that pain is part of passion, that jealousy means they care. But that's not love. That's dysfunction dressed up as desire. Love should never come with fear. Fear of abandonment, fear of conflict, fear of being yourself. Love should be the safest place you know. A soft place to land when the world is hard. A space where your heart feels seen and your soul feels understood. If you're constantly in survival mode with someone you love, you are not thriving. You are coping. And that's not the life you were meant to live. You were made for more than survival. You were made to love and be loved fully without having to sacrifice your peace or your sanity. Don't mistake pain for proof. Don't call suffering devotion. You can walk away. You can choose yourself. And that choice is not weakness, it's power. You might be thinking, but they love me. And maybe they do in the only way they know how. But love without emotional maturity becomes a weapon. A person can love you and still hurt you. A person can love you and still be toxic. Love alone is not enough. You need communication. You need respect. You need accountability. And if someone refuses to give you those things, their love isn't healthy, it's harmful. You don't have to stay with someone just because you share history or because you once saw a future. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away. Not because you stopped loving them, but because you started loving yourself. Love isn't supposed to break you into pieces you don't recognize. It's supposed to help you grow into your best self. And anyone who demands your suffering in exchange for their affection is not offering love. They're offering bondage. And you deserve better. You don't have to earn love by suffering. Let me say that again for the people in the back. You don't have to earn love by suffering. You don't have to prove your worth by staying through disrespect. You don't have to teach someone how to treat you by letting them hurt you first. You are worthy of love just by being. You are worthy of respect without proving your pain tolerance. The moment you start believing that, your standards rise. You stop tolerating chaos. You stop explaining your boundaries. You stop chasing validation. You become grounded in your worth, and the people who truly love you, they will rise to meet you there. Not because you demand perfection, but because you refuse to accept pain as love's currency. Let that truth sink in. Love that costs you your peace is too expensive. If no one ever told you this before, let me be the first. Love should feel safe. It should feel like alignment, not anxiety. It should feel like growth, not destruction. And if what you're calling love is costing you your self-esteem, your voice, your mental peace, then it's time to let it go. You were not born to carry someone else's dysfunction. You were not created to be a punching bag for someone's trauma. Love should never come with suffering as the price. You deserve a love that heals, not harms, that empowers, not erases, that builds, not breaks. And that kind of love, it starts with you. When you stop allowing pain to be your love language, you open yourself to receive the love that was meant for you all along. You know what hurts the most? It's not always what they did to you. It's what you kept doing to yourself to keep them around. It's the times you stayed quiet when you should have spoken, the moments you said, "I'm fine," when your soul was screaming for help. Self-betrayal is subtle. It's not loud. It creeps in every time you silence your truth, every time you betray your own boundaries just to avoid being abandoned. You call it compromise, but deep down, you know you're giving away pieces of yourself just to feel wanted. That's not love. That's survival. And you were not born to survive in relationships. You were born to thrive in them. But you can't do that while constantly abandoning yourself. You can't do that while choosing them over you every single time. And I get it. I know you just want it to be loved, but not like this. Not at the cost of your voice, not at the expense of your peace. There's no healing in staying loyal to someone who requires you to betray yourself to stay connected. You owe yourself better. And it starts the moment you stop abandoning you. You teach people how to treat you by how you treat yourself. If you constantly ignore your own needs, tolerate disrespect, and swallow your truth, they will too. That's the pattern. That's the cycle. And it won't stop until you decide you're worthy of more. You can't keep expecting someone to value what you don't even protect. Your time, your energy, your love, these are sacred. But if you keep handing them out to people who don't honor them, you're telling the world that you're okay with less than you deserve. That's not humility, that's self-neglect. And that has to stop. You are not here to be everybody's emotional dumping ground. You are not here to keep proving your worth to people who only love you when it's convenient. It's time to stop betraying yourself in the name of loyalty. Loyalty to others means nothing if it costs you your loyalty to your soul. You can't pour from an empty cup, and you shouldn't try. Fill yourself. Protect your spirit. Love yourself out loud, because when you stop betraying yourself, you start attracting people who won't either. There's a version of you that's buried under years of self-sacrifice, under the weight of trying to keep everyone happy. That version is tired. That version is waiting for you to choose you. Self-betrayal often looks like people-pleasing, like smiling when you're hurting, like agreeing when your heart is saying no. Like pretending something doesn't bother you just to avoid conflict. But you don't have to do that anymore. You don't have to be the strong one all the time. You don't have to carry the emotional weight of others to be worthy of love. You don't have to shrink to make others comfortable. That's not your job. Your job is to be true, to be whole, to stop trading your peace for temporary connection, to stop handing your worth to people who don't even know how to handle their own. When you choose you, you don't lose others. You lose the illusion that betraying yourself was love. And that's the greatest freedom of all. I know you were conditioned to think love means selflessness, but somewhere along the way, they twisted that into self-erasure. You gave and gave and gave until there was nothing left. And when they walked away, you were left trying to rebuild a self you barely knew. That's the wound self-betrayal leaves. It disconnects you from your own identity. You forget what you like, what you need, what you dream of, because your entire life becomes about what they want. But let me remind you, you matter. Your needs matter. Your voice matters. And love is not real if it requires your disappearance. The right people will not need you to abandon yourself to earn a seat at the table. The right people will make space for all of you, your voice, your emotions, your growth. And until they show up, you show up for you, loudly, fully, every single day. Because your first relationship is with you. And if you keep betraying yourself, you'll keep attracting people who do the same. The reason you feel so tired isn't because life is unfair. It's because you're constantly at war with your own soul. You know what you need, but you keep ignoring it. You feel the red flags, but you keep justifying them. You see the patterns, but you tell yourself this time it's different. That's the exhaustion living a lie that looks like loyalty. You are not crazy. You're just disconnected from your truth. And that disconnection comes from years of being taught that your feelings are too much, your needs are selfish, your voice is inconvenient. But that ends now. Because every time you abandon yourself, you give your power away. And your healing begins the moment you stop looking for someone else to give you what you refuse to give yourself. Give yourself permission to feel, to speak, to walk away, to say no. Let self-loyalty be your new standard. Let peace be your new home. You don't need to betray yourself to belong. You just need to come back to you. Patient. One of the hardest things to admit is how often we abandon ourselves just to avoid being abandoned by someone else. You think if you just hold on a little longer, they'll change. if you're just more patient, more forgiving, more understanding, they'll finally love you, right? But deep down, you know better. Deep down, you feel the cost. Your anxiety is louder. Your joy is quieter. Your heart is tired, because love should never require the betrayal of your soul. And you don't need more time to figure that out. You need more courage to accept it. You don't need to fix them. You need to free yourself. Self-betrayal is a prison disguised as loyalty. And the key has always been in your hands. You can walk out. You can choose peace. You can start again. And this time, you don't abandon yourself to make someone stay. It's time. Stay with you. Fully, faithfully, fiercely. You have to stop betraying yourself every time someone makes you feel like you're too hard to love. That is their wound, not your truth. That is their limitation, not your flaw. You don't have to shrink so they feel bigger. You don't have to quiet your truth so they feel more secure. The right love will not require the silencing of your voice. It will not demand your pain as proof. And if you keep betraying yourself to fit inside someone else's idea of love, you'll always feel empty. You'll always feel small. You were not created to be small. You were made to stand tall in your truth, to shine in your wholeness, to live without apology. And the moment you stop abandoning you to hold on to them, you start holding on to something far more valuable. You start holding on to your self-worth, your dignity, your light. And that right there is when your life starts to transform. You want to know what real power looks like? It's not pretending to be okay. It's not faking smiles or saying yes when your heart says no. Real power is living in alignment with your truth. It's honoring your emotions, even when they make others uncomfortable. It's refusing to betray yourself just to avoid rocking the boat. Because peace built on self-abandonment isn't peace. It's a ticking time bomb. Eventually, the real you will rise. And when she does, she's going to ask why you kept choosing others over her. Why you kept silencing her pain, her voice, her desires. Don't wait until that day to make a change. Choose her now. Choose your truth now. Stand in your worth now. That's the only way you break the cycle. That's the only way you begin to heal. And that healing, it starts with a decision. Your decision. To stop betraying the one person who's always been there through it all. You. You don't have to keep living this way. You don't have to keep giving the best of you to people who give you the worst of them. You don't have to keep explaining your boundaries, begging to be seen, or proving your worth. That's the cycle of self-betrayal. And it ends when you say it ends. You are not too much. You are not too broken. You are not unworthy. You are a whole human being with dreams, desires, and dignity. And anyone who makes you feel like loving you requires pain is not your person. They never were. Stop abandoning yourself to chase love, because the love you're chasing, it's waiting inside of you. And the moment you stop betraying yourself, you become magnetic to the love that doesn't hurt. The love that stays, the love that honors your soul. So choose you boldly, loudly, without shame, because you are not too much for the right heart. You are just finally done being too little for your own. There comes a moment in life when you look in the mirror and don't recognize the person staring back at you. Not because you've changed, but because you've lost connection with who you truly are. You've spent so long catering to others, wearing masks to be accepted, pretending to be okay just to keep the peace, that you've forgotten your own reflection. Rebuilding the relationship you have with yourself starts with honesty. It starts with saying, I miss me. It starts with recognizing that somewhere along the way you abandon your dreams, your needs, your voice, just to keep someone else comfortable. And that's not your fault. You were surviving. You were doing what you thought love required. But now is the time to return to you. Not the version shaped by heartbreak or molded by their opinions, but the real you, the you that's been waiting patiently beneath the noise. And no, it's not going to be easy. There will be days when you're unsure, days when self-love feels like a foreign language. But don't stop. Keep showing up. Keep listening to yourself, because the relationship you have with you is the foundation of every other relationship in your life. Rebuild it, brick by brick. You can't heal while constantly rejecting the one person who needs you most, yourself. You're the only one who's been there through every heartbreak, every dark night, every silent cry. Yet so often you treat yourself like a stranger. You criticize yourself for being emotional. You shame yourself for needing rest. You punish yourself for not being stronger, quicker, more perfect. But you wouldn't speak to a friend like that, so why speak to you that way? Healing begins with compassion, with whispering, "I'm still proud of you even when you fall," with forgiving yourself for the times you didn't know better. Rebuilding the relationship with yourself means learning how to be your own safe space, not just when things go right, but especially when they go wrong. Can you hold your own hand when the world walks away? Can you say, "I love you," even when you're not at your best? That's the work. That's the practice. That's how you become whole again. Not by being perfect, but by choosing to love yourself in your imperfections. You're not too far gone. You're just one honest conversation away from coming home to you. You've been looking for someone to save you, but the truth is, you are the rescue. You are the hand you've been waiting for. You keep hoping someone will come along and finally see your worth, but what if you're the one who's supposed to see it first? What if all this time you've been searching for in others what you needed to give yourself? Validation, love, patience, forgiveness. Rebuilding your relationship with yourself means no longer outsourcing your worth. It means no longer needing applause to believe in your gifts. It means standing in front of the mirror and affirming, "I matter," even if no one claps. "I'm enough," even if no one says so. Because the way you speak to yourself sets the tone for your entire life. When you believe you're worthy, you stop chasing people who make you question that. When you love yourself fully, you stop settling for half-hearted love. The world can only reflect back what you hold inside. So if you want loyalty, give it to yourself first. If you want peace, create it within. If you want love, pour it into your own soul. The journey back to you starts now. Don't wait for someone to lead you there. Be the leader. You were never meant to live your life through someone else's lens. You were never meant to define yourself by who left, who stayed, or who never saw your value. That pain, that heartbreak, it doesn't define you. It only reminded you of the parts you forgot to nurture. You see, sometimes life breaks us just to reveal what's real. And in the rubble, in the silence, you get the chance to meet yourself again. Not the wounded you, not the people-pleasing you, the real, powerful, whole you. The you that dreamed before the world said to settle. The you that loved boldly before fear crept in. The you that danced, laughed, and hoped without apology. Rebuilding your relationship with yourself means resurrecting that version of you. Not by force, but with love, with patience, with grace. It means remembering that you are not too broken to be healed. You are not too far gone to be found. You are not unlovable. You are unlearning who they told you to be so you can remember who you are. And that's not weakness. That's the greatest strength of all. Choosing to love yourself back to life. You can't rebuild anything if you keep punishing yourself for what already happened. You made choices from a place of survival. You stayed when you should have left. You gave when you had nothing left. You lost yourself trying to love someone who didn't love you back. But hear me clearly. That doesn't make you weak. That makes you human. Stop replaying the same scenes in your head. You're not going back there. You've already survived. You've already paid the price. Now it's time to rebuild, not with guilt, but with grace. Not with self-hatred, but with healing. You are allowed to forgive yourself. You are allowed to let go of the weight. Every day is a new brick. Every honest conversation with yourself is progress. Every boundary you enforce, every kind word you whisper to your reflection, it's all construction. You're rebuilding a home inside of you, one that's safe, one that doesn't abandon you, one that stands even when the world crumbles. You owe it to yourself to stop tearing down what you're trying to heal. Start today, start right now. Begin again with love. Rebuilding the relationship you have with yourself requires silence. It requires stepping back from the noise, the opinions, the distractions, and tuning in. Because the answers you've been searching for aren't out there. They're inside. But you can't hear them when you're constantly numbing, scrolling, comparing, distracting. The healing lives in the stillness, in those quiet moments where you finally ask, what do I need? And actually listen. Maybe you need rest. Maybe you need boundaries. Maybe you need to forgive yourself for all the ways you abandon your own needs. Whatever it is, it won't come from the outside. Self-connection is a practice. You don't find it in someone else's validation. You cultivate it by paying attention to your own soul. Sit with yourself. Cry if you need to. Laugh if you can. Just don't run from you anymore. Because the moment you stop running, the healing begins. That's when the rebuilding starts. Not by adding more to your life, but by stripping away what was never meant to stay. And what's left? That's the real you. That's the version worth everything. You cannot rebuild a home with tools meant to destroy. If all you do is criticize yourself, belittle your progress, and compare your healing to others, you will stay stuck in a place you were meant to grow out of. Growth isn't about speed, it's about direction. And if every day you're choosing to be a little more kind, a little more present, a little more honest with yourself, then you're rebuilding right. Stop expecting perfection. Healing is messy. Rebuilding is slow, but it's yours. No one else gets to define what your progress looks like. The old version of you, the one who begged to be seen, who tolerated disrespect just to feel love, that version was operating from pain. But this new you, this rising you, they are choosing peace, choosing self-respect, choosing to heal out loud. And even if no one claps for your growth, even if they don't understand it, you keep building anyway. Because this house you're constructing inside your soul, it's not for them. It's for you. Your peace, your power, your future. Keep going. Keep laying the bricks, one day at a time. You will find your power the moment you stop asking for permission to be yourself. Rebuilding the relationship with you means no longer needing others to validate your emotions, your boundaries, your dreams. You've spent enough time shrinking, enough time trying to be not too much. But you were never too much. You were just too much for people who didn't know how to love deeply. And that's not a flaw. That's your brilliance. That's your magic. You don't need to dim your light to be loved. You need to walk fully in your truth and let those who can't handle it fall away. That's not selfish. That's sacred. That's self-honor. You've been bending for too long. It's time to stand. It's time to be rooted in who you are, even when it's uncomfortable. You can't rebuild your life on foundations that were never stable to begin with. So tear it down. The false stories, the lies you believed, the wounds you carried like identities. Let them go. And in their place, lay down truth. Lay down love. Lay down real, lasting, grounded self-connection. That's the only way forward. The more you learn to love yourself, the less tolerance you'll have for things that break you. That's how you know you're healing. That's how you know the relationship with yourself is being rebuilt. You stop chasing people who ghost you. You stop begging for closure. You stop explaining your worth. Because you finally realize you never needed to fight for love. You just needed to fight for yourself. And once you do, you stop settling. You stop performing. You start choosing with clarity, with courage, with peace. Rebuilding isn't about revenge. It's not about proving anyone wrong. It's about proving to yourself that you were always enough. That even in the silence, in the heartbreak, in the nights you didn't know how you'd get through, you were becoming someone stronger, someone softer, someone who doesn't abandon themselves for a seat at a broken table. So rebuild boldly, beautifully, brick by brick. You are not your pain. You are your healing. And that healing will change everything. Forgiveness is one of the hardest things you'll ever have to do, not because the person deserves it, not because what they did wasn't real or painful, but because holding on to the weight of what happened will slowly kill your spirit. You don't forgive to let them off the hook. You don't forgive to invite them back into your life. You forgive because the pain is too heavy to carry every single day. You forgive because peace is worth more than pride. You forgive because you're tired of replaying the same wound like it just happened yesterday. The truth is, they might never apologize. They might never acknowledge the damage they caused, but forgiveness isn't about them. It's about your freedom. It's about saying, you no longer control how I feel, how I breathe, how I sleep. You forgive not to excuse, but to release. Cut the cord that ties you to the trauma. To reclaim your joy, your energy, your power. It's not weakness, it's strength. It's strength to say this pain ends with me, because if you don't release it, you'll bleed it into everything you touch. Forgiveness is not forgetting, it's healing. It's saying, I choose me now. Forgiveness isn't a one-time event. It's not something you say once and everything magically disappears. No, real forgiveness is a process. Some days you'll feel like you've moved on, and the next day you'll hear a song or see a photo, and that old pain comes rushing back like a tidal wave. That's normal. That's healing. But every time that pain resurfaces and you still choose peace over bitterness, you're taking your power back. Every time you refuse to let what they did define who you are, you're rising. You're saying, you may have hurt me, but you will not own me. Forgiveness is choosing freedom again and again. And no, it doesn't mean you ignore the pain. It means you refuse to let it build a home in your heart. You acknowledge it, you face it, and then you release it, not because they're worthy of it, but because you are. You deserve to wake up without the weight. You deserve to move forward without dragging the past. You deserve to smile without forcing it. That's what forgiveness is, a gift to yourself. A release from the prison you didn't deserve to be in to begin with. You have every right to be angry. You have every right to feel what you feel. But ask yourself, how long will you let that pain control your life? How long will you carry a grudge so sharp it cuts you every time you think about them? Because here's the truth. Your anger might be justified, but it's also exhausting. It's eating your joy. It's clouding your peace. It's making you question if happiness is even possible again. Forgiveness is the key that unlocks that door. It doesn't mean what they did is okay. It doesn't mean you go back. It means you choose yourself over the pain. You choose light over darkness. It's not pretending you're not hurt. It's deciding not to let that hurt harden you. You forgive so you don't become what broke you. You forgive so you can sleep better, breathe easier, laugh louder. Because the longer you hold on, the deeper the pain roots itself into your identity. Let it go. Not for them, for you, for the future version of you who's waiting on the other side of that healing. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's one of the boldest moves you'll ever make. Some people will never say they're sorry, and that's something you have to accept. It's hard. It stings. You wait hoping for that one moment of accountability, that one conversation where they finally say, I was wrong. But what if that moment never comes? Do you stay broken? Do you keep your heart chained to the past while they've already moved on with their life? Forgiveness is choosing to stop waiting. It's saying, you may never apologize, and that's okay. I no longer need your words to heal, because healing is your responsibility, not theirs. You've suffered long enough. You've cried enough tears for someone who didn't even recognize the damage they did. Now it's your time. Your time to rise, to rebuild, to renew. You can't rewrite the past, but you can write the next chapter, and it starts with letting go of what they'll never give you. Closure doesn't always come from others. It comes from deciding you deserve peace even without their validation. That's real strength. That's forgiveness. That's freedom. Forgiveness isn't saying what they did didn't matter. It's saying your life matters more. You can't keep giving energy to people who drained you. You can't keep replaying old betrayals and expecting to feel light. Bitterness is a cage, and forgiveness is the key. But you have to choose to use it. That's the part people don't talk about, how forgiveness is active. It's daily. It's deliberate. It's waking up and choosing not to let them steal one more moment of your life. It's not easy. It might feel unfair, but carrying bitterness won't make it fair. It just keeps you connected to a story that no longer serves you. You're not erasing the pain. You're choosing not to be defined by it. You're saying, yes, it happened, but I get to decide what happens next. That's the power you hold. That's the strength you've always had. You are not weak for forgiving. You are wise. You are done being a prisoner to the past. It's time to set yourself free. You built walls so high trying to protect yourself that you forgot what peace feels like. You tell yourself it's better this way. No one in, no one can hurt you. But in truth, the walls don't just keep pain out. They keep healing from getting in. Forgiveness tears down those walls, brick by brick. It lets the light in again. It lets love in again. Not their love, not the old broken kind, but new love, self-love, true love. When you forgive, you make space for joy. You clear the debris of old wounds so something better can grow. You've been carrying ashes, but forgiveness gives you permission to rise, to start over, to reclaim your soul. And yes, that takes courage, but you've already survived the worst. Now it's time to live the best. You don't have to have it all figured out. Just start. Choose today to no longer carry what's not yours. Lay it down. The pain, the betrayal, the anger, all of it. Say to yourself, I deserve better. And it starts with me. You'll never change the past, but you can change how much power it has over you. That's what forgiveness does. It puts you back in the driver's seat. It says you no longer get to live rent-free in my mind. It says, I will not let what you did dictate who I become. That's a declaration of freedom. And no, it doesn't make you weak. It makes you dangerous. Because healed people, free people, they can't be controlled by fear, bitterness, or pain. They live fully. They love deeply. They rise without apology. That's who you're becoming. That's who you are underneath the scars. Don't let one chapter keep you from the rest of your story. You have too much life left to live to stay trapped in what was. So today, even if it's shaky, choose to let go. Choose to forgive, not because they're worthy, but because you are. Because you've got places to go, people to meet, joy to experience. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become next. There's a difference between forgiving and forgetting. You don't have to forget. In fact, remembering helps you grow. It helps you build better boundaries. It helps you protect your peace. But you can remember without reliving. You can remember without staying stuck in the pain. That's what forgiveness gives you, the power to revisit without re-injuring yourself. It gives you the clarity to say, that hurt me, but it no longer owns me. And that's where healing lives, in the space between remembrance and release. You can honor your past without being held hostage by it. You can keep the lessons and let go of the poison. That's not denial. That's wisdom. That's strength. Forgiveness is a sacred act. It's not loud. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's just a whisper in your own soul that says, I'm done being angry. I'm ready to breathe again. That whisper is your breakthrough. That moment is your turning point. You've been carrying pain that was never meant to stay. You've worn it like armor, thinking it made you strong. But strength is not found in suffering. It's found in release. You don't have to prove how much it hurt by holding on to it. You've already proved it by surviving it. Now, prove something else. Prove you can rise. Prove you can be happy again. Prove that they didn't win. Forgiveness is that proof. It's the evidence that your spirit is greater than your wound. It's the sign that healing is not just possible, it's already happening. You just have to get out of your own way. Let yourself feel it. But don't pitch a tent there. Move forward. Move free. You don't owe them anything, but you owe yourself everything. Your peace, your purpose, your future. Let forgiveness carry you there. You didn't deserve what happened. You didn't ask for that pain, but you do deserve freedom. You deserve lightness in your chest again. You deserve mornings that don't begin with bitterness and nights that don't end in anger, that starts with one brave decision to forgive, not to excuse, not to forget, but to free yourself, to say, this is where the cycle ends. This is where I take my life back. And every time you choose peace over pain, every time you choose freedom over resentment, you're rewriting your story. You're breaking chains generations deep. That's not just healing. That's legacy. That's purpose. That's power. So stand tall, take a deep breath and release it. Not for them, for you. When you walk through life carrying the weight of betrayal, heartbreak, and unanswered pain, it can feel like dragging a chain that never loosens. But the truth is, healing doesn't begin with them. It begins with you. Forgiveness is not about making peace with the people who hurt you. It's about making peace with yourself. It's about deciding that you've suffered long enough, that your mind deserves quiet, your heart deserves peace, and your spirit deserves to soar again. You don't forgive to excuse their actions. You forgive to cut the invisible thread that's been holding you hostage. You forgive so you can finally exhale, so you can stop looking back and start moving forward. Some wounds may never receive an apology. Some people may never acknowledge the pain they caused, but your life doesn't have to be put on pause waiting for someone else's accountability. You've already bled, already wept, already endured. Now it's time to reclaim your power. To understand that forgiving someone doesn't mean what they did was okay. It means you are choosing not to let what they did define you. You are choosing freedom, growth, and joy. You are choosing to live not in the shadow of what happened, but in the light of what can be. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting the lesson. It means remembering it with wisdom, not with rage. It means choosing not to let the pain create more pain. It means breaking cycles, not continuing them. When you forgive, you take the first step toward becoming who you were always meant to be, unburdened, unshaken, and unstoppable. You allow love, peace, and strength to take root where bitterness once lived. You begin to breathe differently, speak differently, live differently. And the best part? You do it for you, for your peace, for your soul, for the future that's been calling your name. So today, take that first step, release what was, embrace what is, trust what's coming, because the moment you let go of what no longer serves you is the moment you begin to step into everything that will. And remember, forgiveness is not weakness. It's a quiet declaration of strength that echoes louder than vengeance ever could. Thank you for sharing this moment of reflection and truth. May your heart find peace, your soul find rest, and your path be filled with light. God bless you, stay strong, and keep walking in your truth.